What's up, y'all? This is The Flip Side, the very first episode. I'm your host, Brian Hesson, and this is a show where millennials talk about social issues, and we're going to get it to you. Let's get it.
God bless the United States of America.
All right, y'all. My name is Brian, like I said, and I'm with my guests tonight. I have Brian, I have Reagan, I got Kirby, I have Brandon and Bree, and we're going to talk tonight about rape culture. Let's get into it. Before I want to begin, though, y'all, I want to talk about the actual definition. This is the biggest thing that I think is going to really lead into the conversation and arguments is the actual definition of rape culture. That's what a lot of people don't really realize, that there is one. And this is according to southernct.edu. Rape culture is an environment in which rape is prevalent, in which sexual violence is normalized and excused in the media and popular culture. So not necessarily that rape culture is just about rape. It's really just normalizing, trivializing, sexual jokes, sexual abuse, whether it be physical or verbal, anything like that. So I really want to get into, is rape culture real in the United States? What do y'all think? I know, Brian, I know you want to say something about it. What do you think? Is it prevalent today? Was it prevalent before? Does it kind of affect the way that women interact with men in the a business environment, in a political environment, or anything like that? What do you think?
So my whole thing is that, okay, rape culture. Now, I've never been raped before. I mean, who wants to rape me anyways?
Right.
Secondly, I would say rape has came a culture of victimhood, if you will. Now follow me on with this. Now, if you think about it this way, as a woman, right, and you have that power after, okay, say you gave consent to a guy,
right?
You drank, right? So in that night you gave consent to a guy.
Right.
Then the next day, this is merely just a bipartisan issue for me.
Right.
So my thing is if you drank whatever else, no matter what this scenario is, my thing is that if you gave consent to that day, the next day, and you said, guess what? I don't really think I like this guy. He's a douchebag, whateh.
Right.
No matter what the agenda is.
You can't claim rape then. Is that what you're saying?
Right. That's my thing.
And don't get me wrong. Like the FBI changed the definition. I think it was in 2015 about rape, and like you said, it needs to be consent. And it's anytime there's consent right prior to the actual sexual interaction. But I will say this though. Well, they say no during, and he continues.
Okay.
That's rape.
So, okay, during, though, but tell me how that statistic lies out when you're just doing it. If you don't call the cops right then and there when you say no, when it's happening, what do you do?
Is it rape if someone, here's the thing, just because you don't, also too, rape is one of the most underreported. It's one of the most underreported crimes.
Right.
And it's simply because, and women, you could probably agree with me, is that, afraid of backlash, afraid of, especially if they're having sex.
Trauma.
Well, no, not even that. Having sex with someone with high importance. Say you're trying, it's, someone who could destroy your career or something like that.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
You have that power. The woman has that power.
I understand. It's, I think the biggest argument for rape culture though is, it's what's happening outside of the bedroom.
Recently there was a young girl, maybe about 16 years old. Mm-hmm. She was in Chicago with her friends. She was in high school, and they were, smoking, drinking, and she actually was raped in that hotel room. Her friends were there. What is her name?
I don't remember her name, but
I can't remember her name right now. But
I remember that too.
That is a scenario of just being raped when you literally are yelling for help, and that person is still continuing to. That
within itself, I consider rape right there.
Oh, of course.
That's the mirrored situation.
But yeah, that was non-consensual. But a lot of times what people don't realize is that, a woman, and this is what I've heard, is that, a woman may not want to have sex with a man, but she's afraid what would happen if she says no. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that type of rape happens more often than not. Not necessarily the one where, you're screaming help, someone's really physically attacking you trying to rape somebody. I feel like that actually statistics is very low. I think the one that's highest is when women don't want to have sex with this man but are afraid of the backlash with saying no to them.
Yeah.
Check it.
Okay,
Right.
so I have a question for
Okay.
you, Brian.
Yes,
and Brian.
yes.
Brian Wise.
Brian.
With the
So-
Y or an I?
We should have a
Both
little
of
note
you.
card.
Yeah. This is Brian with the Y. The ginger.
So none of us are going to disagree on the fact that if somebody is screaming for help and screaming no, that's a rape situation.
Right.
Like, we all agree on that.
Yes, yes, I agree with that.
So my question is,
Yes.
is it still? Do you still consider it rape if like there are girls? And I think this happens very often where people, they say most people are raped by someone that they know, someone they have a relationship with.
Right.
So, do you agree that it's rape in a situation where a girl, she may want to go down on you or give that sign that something is happening, that she's okay with progressing to a certain level, and then it gets too real or whatever, she
The guy
doesn't
gets too
want,
aggressive.
something like that,
Right.
or she just doesn't want to. She may be in the mood to do XYZ and not follow through.
To
whatever.
me, that's a slippery slope because realistically, you have the power to say stop, right?
Right,
Right,
but
but they're in
oftentimes women say stop then,
Right, and the guy will get
guy
aggressive.
says,
Right.
well, but you were okay with doing
Right.
this, why don't you
That
want to
is
do
what
this?
I consider that rape. Yes, I'm 110% agreeing with that. Yes. You better tell somebody if you felt like you're aggressively taken advantage of, you better tell somebody right then and there, text somebody, whatever. Make it legally, right, consentful, right? After that happens. Don't tell a friend, whatever. You don't even have to call the
But
police.
that's the problem right there. I mean,
Right.
I get it. Like you would think that you'd be like, I got raped. I need to tell somebody. Like yada yada yada. That doesn't happen often. The reason why is the backlash. Let me tell you. There was reported. I forgot where I saw it. It was an article that I saw on Facebook. This woman said no to a guy. He got jealous and killed her ass.
Several
Yeah,
There's
very-
women.
a lot of times
that's what I'm saying. And that's the fear. Because I mean,
Well,
we got
you shouldn't have sex at all then, honestly. Because if that happens,
that's not realistic. That's
right,
not realistic.
I understand that, but the thing is that if that happens, if a guy would like, okay, so during that, were you saying during that scenario, like if the guy killed her, got
Right.
jealous after or before or even during?
No. So they were literally like they were attracted to each other.
Right.
But she didn't want to have sex.
Right, that's rape.
Right. But no, they didn't have sex. But then
He forced it onto.
No.
Okay, what
He
you
did.
saying?
She rejected her. Or I'm sorry, she rejected him.
Right.
And because he was so jealous and he was angry,
Oh, okay.
he killed her.
Well, that's a
Yes,
different concept then. That's like okay.
No,
that's,
but that's the fear.
Right.
Is that if you say no, a physical altercation will happen.
Can I
Okay,
speak on
so-
that?
Okay,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
So that's something you brought up too earlier. You said that the fear of what's going to happen that comes
Right.
behind no, is that still considered rape? For example, someone who holds your maybe career in the balance of
Yeah.
things, is that considered rape because you're scared of saying no? In my opinion, that's a choice.
By consent, by the definition of
if
consent.
if you say yes to having sex, but it's out of fear because this person is your boss.
You've been coerced.
Well, coerced, but if this person is your boss, that's on you at the point from like a legal standpoint. You have to tell them no.
I understand.
If you say yes because you're worried because it's your boss, that turns into more of a civil matter between sexual harassment and misconduct that involves.
I have an interjection. So you said from a legal standpoint, you have to tell them no. That is not the law. The law is from a legal standpoint, you have to tell them yes.
It's a verbal.
correct,
It's,
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I understand where that can get slippery because
Okay, that's
That's
what I'm
the
saying.
lyrics.
That's
Yeah.
slippery
No,
slope.
you're
That's
right.
what I'm explaining.
I agree.
And I
Sorry,
do.
I
I
agree.
understand where that
I
comes
agree.
into play, but I think that the underlying issue with a lot of this rape culture stuff, which like to state my position, I do believe people are confused often about the definition of consent, and often people think that because you didn't say no, you said yes, and that's not the law. The law is if you have to say yes explicitly for it to be a yes. And I think that our biggest issue is that we're not educated about that in our system today, in schools, in our houses. Our parents don't talk to us about that kind of stuff.
Right.
Or at least
It's taboo
Technically,
almost.
I
Yeah.
like as a woman, like I learned this from friends and from I don't know watching things, but
Right.
it's not as big of an issue on our part as I think it is for men to be
Educated.
on. Like the people are always like, oh yeah, she was into me. I felt a signal, or I saw like she was looking at me this way. Da da da. It's as simple as saying like, hey, are you good? Hey, do you want to keep doing this?
Right.
Hey, are you comfortable? That's all you need. Just check in intermittently and keep yourself accountable. That's as easy as it is. If you're having sex with somebody and she seems like she's uncomfortable, or even if she doesn't seem like she's uncomfortable, say something.
Yeah.
Make the words with your mouth to say, hey, just checking in, making sure you're good. Do you want to keep going?
Right. Especially
And that's all
complete
you need to
stranger.
do.
Yeah, right. If it's a random hookup, like you don't have that chemistry and everything.
I have a question. Now, what if you were slightly intoxicated and that really a conversation to really come out, because obviously temptation overpowers that.
Make a point to do it. Habit. You when you practice things, they become habit.
Right.
The more you get into the practice of saying those things and checking in with your partner's feelings when you're having sex with somebody, the more it'll just become second nature, whether you're drunk or not. And we could go into the issues with drinking and rape and all of that, but I think it goes deeper, and it's more about your connection with the person that you're with and whether you care about their feelings or not.
Let me give you guys the definitions of not only consent, which is in the definition of rape, but also in the definition of consent, it's going to talk about voluntary agreement and the definition of voluntary. So just that everyone knows, understands, we have a premise about what exactly rape is in any situation. So the definition of a consent is a voluntary agreement to another's proposition and to voluntarily agree to an act or proposal of another. So the hot word in this is voluntary. Let's look at the definition of voluntary. But listen to this. Done, given, or acting of one's own free will. So here's the thing. Is it your free will if you're being blackmailed or you're going to be like fired? Is that your free will? Is that your own free will? If I say if you don't have sex with me, I'm going to tell the company you're a slut and you're gonna get fired for it.
Oh man.
Exactly. So that's force. That defies the definition of voluntary. So that means it defies the definition of consent, which means it's rape.
That's evident, and see that, like I said, that is evidence that leads up to rape.
Right.
But if you just say yes to your boss because you're afraid that something might happen, and there has not been any actual evidence before, this is maybe your coach. Well, inappropriate, yes. Well, absolutely inappropriate. Of course, yeah. And you can get fired for that. You can be sued for that. It is not illegal, though. It is not a criminal act.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
To just because he had sex with you and you were scared. That's if you don't speak up and you do consent to it, that's on you. Unless there's like situations and acts that happened before where he threatened, like, oh, if you don't, your playtime's going to diminish.
Let me ask you a question. That fear, does that contribute to rape culture then? Does that is in that definition of rape culture? Does that show that rape culture is real?
I think it depends on your mindset. It shouldn't. No one should be afraid of losing their job for not sleeping with.
Right. With
someone,
a boss or someone with a high status, somebody. Right. Yeah, right.
I do think it is a personal decision. You are literally not forced to do that. You can make that decision to do it or not.
Okay.
So that's just my take on that. I think that it really is up to that person. Right. But when, like we said, the voluntary thing, if she
blackmail, something like that, then that would be okay.
Yes.
I see what you're saying. Okay, then that's go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to say I think these are all just various situations of like a topic I think that we're all very clear on, and like the actual situation of rape culture is like, what are the like factors that make us conditioned to think these things are acceptable, even if it's in a millisecond like decision. So I mean, I feel like I know for a fact growing up, like I had an older brother and like he had video games that are like. I mean, like,
right.
We're driving a car around and, like, beating up.
GTA?
Just
say GTA, yeah.
So,
we all know what it is.
Like, but, like, and everybody's played that game.
Right,
I played that game. And so, like, but that was just a commonality growing up.
So you think that's social conditioning?
Cool.
Right.
That's exactly what it is. And so that's what I'm saying. So, like, we're all just, I feel like, expressing, like, scenarios thus far that are of rape, which I feel like we're all very clear at. I mean, once you get to a certain point, even, I think, as a preteen, even before then, like what's inappropriate and what's not, or like what's appropriate and what's inappropriate because you're somebody, even if it's a teacher, like if you don't have parents, like there's never a scenario where you're not very clear like what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Right. But
sense. It's about like that's one part where like you're educated in it, but on the flip side, like situations where like you're conditioned to be like, oh well, hypersexualization is okay, and like because I'm a man and I'm aggressive and I can really beat you up, like that's just like from a very like caveman point of view. But that's why is that still a thing whenever we're intelligent enough to have like technology and be able to create these other ends of life, but that's still like in our societal makeup, like aggression is it, and I'm gonna beat you up otherwise, and that's in more than just this particular rape culture, but in general, that's like a huge part of having rape culture itself. Like rape is more than just rape, the action.
Then yeah, it should be the education of men. Then I mean, Bree was saying,
and I agree with you. Like that, I agree and I disagree. In our society, we're conditioned towards certain things like the GTA and the games that condition us to be more objectifying and being more aggressive and whatnot. But I also think sometimes, like, look at college culture. Getting drunk, going to the party, looking for maybe a mate. Whether that, and girls want it too, guys want it. Yeah. And when you go to a party and you get drunk, under the law, when you're intoxicated or inebriated, you can't consent. But there are plenty of encounters that happen in college when two people are inebriated and intoxicated and they have sex and it's okay. And they're cool. Sometimes people meet their girlfriends that way. Sometimes meet their future wives, the mother of their child, whatnot. That's the problem, though. Our culture also, in the other way, says it's okay.
But I don't want to get confused with, there are a lot of cases where women get drunk or get inebriated and are raped. So we can't say that never happens.
No. That's
when
you,
no,
we're not going to,
goes back to my point where, like, even if you're drunk, you can still say, hey, if you don't want to do this, we don't have to.
Right.
Hey, if da-da-da-da. That's all you gotta say.
Okay, one more question for you. Okay, so you say that, right? You want to get the educated. How do you educate the source? What sources can you do to educate, to have that type of stimulation of someone saying, like, okay, are you sure? You're sure about this? Like, okay, should we go through this? What do you do?
I think our sex education in school needs to be reformed. I think that the video we watch in 5th grade is trash.
Yeah.
And I think that
Hawkins
parents
Day
need to talk to their kids more.
Right.
And I think that it's really important because, like, with the Me Too movement and all that stuff going on with our generation and the generation above us, I know. But we're talking about these things out loud in society, which has never been done before.
Right.
This didn't happen in the 90s. This didn't happen in the 70s. Definitely didn't happen in the 50s when they're being raped by their husbands every day.
Right.
So this is all a step in the right direction, and it's on us to. We can't eradicate sexual assault in 5 years.
Right.
But it's on us to teach our kids properly, to teach the kids that we have influence over, whether it's going into a school and volunteering or anything like that, talking to your friends, keeping your guy friends and your girlfriends accountable.
Texting a friend.
That's what's important.
Exactly.
But no matter how much you drill into kids and the youth about proper sexual education and whatnot, there's still a gray area always going to be. For example, like we brought up earlier about the boss or the coach, the person who has power over you, that necessarily you gave consent to out of a maybe not realistic fear, or that there was a consent level due to intoxication that isn't really there. That's with the guy and the girl. That talks about gender equality too, that if the guy is as trashed as you are just as responsible for having sex with him. Just because he penetrates you, it's you two that are having, your sexual organs are on his too.
Yeah, right.
It works both ways. Believe it or not, it's very small, but girls get charged with rape too. It's fact.
Oh, of course.
Not as much.
Not as prevalent.
Not as much as should though.
Well, that's another topic, but
right. I feel like the same topic, but go ahead.
Well,
let me get into subtopic.
Right. Go ahead.
So I have another question. So on the point of, like, we're trying to bring it back more to the culture and less the act. And we talked about this when we first had our conversation about rape culture. But I guess this is for the other ladies, and I guess the guys if you feel this way as well. But I think that rape culture is so much bigger than just rape and sex, and as women, as children, as girls, we're conditioned to do a lot of things that never cross the mind of men and boys. And the example that I gave to Brian when we were talking about it is, like, I would never go run at night. Like, once the sun is down, I can't go to a park and run. That makes sense. I don't think that men always feel that way or ever feel that way. So there are certain things where, like, I was raised with, not, and this is no offense to my mom, I feel like we're all this way, but we're raised with an inherent fear of being attacked because you never know which men are good and which men are dangerous.
I would say.
Well, I mean,
but it sucks that, and my mom got on to me the other day. I took an Uber home at like 3:30 in the morning, and she was like, you don't know if that would have been someone that could have taken you or hurt you. But why, like, I feel that it's really hard to live my life in a way that I have to be responsible for other people's actions every day, all the time, in every action that I take. So what do you think about that and how it affects how we grow up and how that might be able to be changed?
That influence. Okay. I will say that, okay, can I ask you, can I counter question you? Mm-hmm. What is your definition of rape culture?
I think, I agree with the textbook definition that it's normalized, generalized, that people are not believed, trivialized, that's what that means. Yeah. But I think that all of that, the normalization, the trivialization, comes from a different background. There's this, I hate this saying, but like the boys will be boys, and I know we're getting away from that. It's not the 70s anymore.
That's a meme.
But that, we have that in our history, right? That's been in the past that, like, just because you don't want to have sex with your husband doesn't mean you don't have to. He's your husband. You have to. That kind of, like, he needs it and it's his priority and he can take it or he can, whatever, that our grandparents grew up with. Mm-hmm. Continues today, and it's more, and it happens with younger kids too, where kids get bullied and like, it's because he likes you. That's trash.
Yeah, that is trash.
Don't let a boy punch you because he likes you. That's trash.
Yes, I will agree.
So
with
those kinds of things, all of those things need to change for me to feel safe to go outside at night by myself.
Right. At the end of the day, I think we all understand, we all come to a consensus that there needs to be, regardless if it's called rape culture or something else, that there needs to be a re-education with men and women.
Yes.
To understand what consent is, sexual activity with a partner, how much responsibility goes in both parties. But at the end of the day, it's gonna happen with us. That revolution of an ideology is gonna happen with us and our generation.
Realistically, this is what I think. And, I see all y'all's perspectives and everything. Okay, I will say that you said there's no way of preventing this to happen. To me, there is a way. Okay, it's called CHL. And that to me, oh my God,
we have to have it. We have to have
forever.
it.
Oh my God.
Hey, my bad.
Thanks for watching, y'all, and make sure you subscribe to us on our page, but also follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at TDTV Official. And if you want a future topic discussed or you just want to be a guest on the next show, make sure you email us at tdtvofficial@gmail.com, and I will catch y'all on the flip side. We out.